I would like to have a little heart-to-heart talk with you, if I may. In a minute, we'll talk about Obama and the Keystone Pipeline and Boehner and McConnell. But I want to have a heart-to-heart talk, me and you. I was in the hospital a couple of days ago with my son while he was having a bunch of chemotherapy for his cancer treatment. And an old friend who lives a little ways away from here decided, hey, I want to come and see you and visit with you. And he popped in and he started to grill me with questions. And he thanked me. He said, I want to thank you for your leadership in the pro-life movement. I want to thank you for your series, Insurrecta Nex, and your book, A Humble Plea. He said, in my way of thinking, they're the best things that have ever been produced that give the message of the pro-life movement and how we can bring victory about. It's not just, oh, be pro-life. It's how we can be victorious and make the laws, again, so that they reflect the sanctity of human life, the sacredness of human life, and that a baby can be safe in his mommy's womb, her mommy's womb. And he's, after thanking me, and I thanked him for his kind words, he said, look, where are we at? Where are we going? What's going on with the movement, with the pro-life movement, and by implication, the religious right, Christian leadership, church leadership. And I will be honest with you, it was a difficult conversation. And I want to talk to you for just a minute and stay with me about you, about me, about what we do to effect true change. True change. And if we cannot effect true change and be victorious, then how do we effect the judgment of God now and the judgment of God on the day of judgment? We are arguably, as a country, in the worst place that we've ever been ethically. Slavery was a horrific crime against God and man, but murder is worse than slavery. A slave can at least run for freedom. A baby who's murdered can never be replaced in time or eternity. In this world, all that would have come from that child is obliterated. And we've got 55 million dead babies surgically and perhaps 200 or 300 million chemically. So the blood is crying out to God. We've got the insidious pornography that has just created a tidal wave over the American populace via the internet and every other medium that can bring it. Just a complete tidal wave. We have the degradation and abuse of women. And if you look at like magazines like Cosmopolitan that were supposed to be for feminism, and now look what they are. The sacrament of marriage on the ropes. The militant homosexuals trying to redefine and recreate the sacrament of marriage. We're in trouble. And I want to just come at this from several angles to encourage you to fight. Every single one of us has committed sins, done things that we wish we hadn't done, said things that we wish we hadn't said, or failed to do things that we should have done. All of us have them. King David, in his famous psalm, Psalm 51, said, he spoke of repenting and God restoring him. And he said, and then I will teach sinners thy ways and transgressors thy laws. So David saw that he would actually speak to people about the laws of God, even though he had committed murder. He'd committed adultery, he had this baby with Bathsheba, and then used the sword of the Hittites to kill Uriah, her husband. So, or used the sword to kill Uriah the Hittite, I'm sorry. So, we can all be restored. We can all be used by the Lord to fight for what is right. But what I'm seeing is that we've lost the sense that we can do something. We're inundated by bad news constantly, 24-hour networks on TV, the Drudge Report, our newspapers, online news, radio news. It's a deluge of constant bombardment of negative news, an overwhelming sense of defeat, Obama is on the move. Even after the Republicans win the election, Obama's committed to standing against them, and the Republicans are cowering and they're shaking and they're caving into him before they even start the fight. Things are just looking bad. They are. But if you look throughout human history, at times when things were really bad, God raises up people like Gideon, for example. The Midianites had overrun Israel, and for 7 years they would come in and take all the harvest. Gideon was hiding in a wine press with his wheat, threshing wheat in a wine press. So it was a sticky, sweaty mess. And the angel came to him and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty man of valor." And then Gideon, who was in a very small family, very insignificant family, he was the youngest in the family. Gideon is tapped by God to go and fight the Midianites. But the first thing he had to do was to destroy the idol that was in his dad's front yard. I want to encourage you to go to Judges chapter 6. Read it for yourself. Gideon had to destroy the idols that were in his dad's front yard. Then God would let him go and fight the enemy. There's a lot of idols in the Christian community today. Perhaps the worst idol is the love of our own reputation. The love of our own reputation. We don't want to go with Christ outside the gate, suffering reproach with him. We don't want to have the blessing of men reviling us and hating us and persecuting us and speaking evil of us. We don't want to follow the path of the apostles, which means that we're going to be in conflict with the authorities. We don't want that. We want a peaceful, easy life. It's idolatry. It's idolatry. And if we're going to prevail, we've got to go after the idols in our dad's front yard first. So this means that we struggle internally, and then we begin to talk freely with our friends at church, and we say to them, look, we've got to stop the killing of babies. We've got to stand against the militant homosexual juggernaut. We've got to stand against Obama. We've got to light a fire under the Republicans that just won election in the House and the Senate. We've got to hold them accountable. We've got to fight. We've got to be the church militant. And if you will offer yourself in the service of the Lord in any number of fields and then focus on it and become good at it and study what it is that you want to do, God can use you. And maybe he'll use you to become a part of the tide, the force that changes the tide. I'm going to come back. I'm going to continue on this. Don't go away. By the way, you see that we're broadcasting here from a half-finished studio. It's because it's really cold outside. This cold snap has affected us. And if you like the program, this is a listener and viewer-supported program, please go to our website and make a contribution online. If you want to talk to me personally and you'd like to make a $500 or $1,000 contribution to be used to help finish the studio, call us at the number on your screen. Give me your name and number, and I will return your call personally, okay? I hope to talk to you. We need help. I'll be right back. Don't go away.
You have two choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old.
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah.
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.